In tonight's 7 UpFront segment, we're taking a closer look at how the pandemic is impacting schools and what's being done to make some type of return to normal while also protecting students and staff from COVID-19. Joining me now is the state school superintendent, Dr. Michael Rice. Dr. Rice, thank you for coming back and visiting with us.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Let's begin with winter contact sports. They resumed in high schools across the state today. Now, there's some strict guidelines in place, such as wearing masks or being tested when that's not possible in competition. Is this enough to keep students and those safe? And what happens if schools don't follow these rules?
Well, I believe that schools will follow the rules because I think our young men and women want to play sports. I think that they're going to do what they can to stay out on fields and courts and do what they need to be able to play. It's a difficult circumstance, but I think our kids and our staff members, our coaches are up to it.
The governor wants to return to in-person learning at the beginning of next month. What are you hearing from districts on that? Is it feasible for most of them to do that?
It is. What people perhaps don't realize is at the beginning of the year, we had the large majority of our districts that were doing in-person instruction, at least as an option. And that percentage increased right up until we had our second wave of COVID cases in November and into December, at which point we had to shut down the high schools. And for many districts, that meant shutting down the elementaries and middles as well. But I think it's a realistic goal. And I believe that our local school districts are going to be working hard to realize that goal.
Since that pause, of course, vaccinations have become available. What about teachers, though, and their concerns if they've not yet been vaccinated? And I know that process has been frustrating for some of them.
I think it's been frustrating for a number of people. We've done a great job in the state, but you can only put in arms what you receive. And there's a dearth of vaccine at this point. But I think we've done a tremendous job of vaccinating people. I will say that for those that are medically challenged or medically vulnerable in any way, shape, or form, they need to continue to educate children at a distance and to work from home. But so many people are capable with appropriate mitigation strategies of being in space with young people and educating our young people. And I think it's not only possible, but it's desirable. We know that every parent and every child aren't going to want to attend school. We understand that, but that the option ought to be available to all of our parents. And so a parent or a family that chooses to continue to educate their children from home thins out numbers at school and permits the choice for another parent or parents who feel that in-person instruction is right for his or her child.
You expressed your concerns over the loss of time in the classroom and what students maybe aren't learning this year as a result of the pandemic, asking lawmakers to increase the number of days kids are required to go to school or possibly summer school. I mean, what's the best answer, do you feel, for our kids to make sure that they can either get caught up or be where they should be?
Sure. Well, I mean, there are a few things. First of all, I expressed concerns last week in legislative testimony about several things, lessons learned from the pandemic, the need for more social and emotional learning or children's mental health, the need to use home technology as a supplement, but not as a replacement for in-person instruction, the community partnerships, the literacy advancements, and improvements in funding as well. With respect specifically to time, however, what I said was that I thought that next school year, we would need more time, not an extension to this school year, but rather next school year that we would need more time. And I talked about it in 4 layers, if you will. The state layer that you just mentioned, the possible increase in the minimum number of days from the 180 that we currently have to some sort of a modest increase associated therewith. But then there are 3 additional layers that each local school district needs to consider based on its individual circumstances. the first local layer of time that needs to be considered by that local school district is, to what extent does the entire district need additional time above that state minimum? Remember that 180 days is not a ceiling, it's a floor. And so what does the individual district need? If you've been at a distance for the vast majority of your kids, or for all of your kids for the better part of a year, you're going to need more additional time. If, on the other hand, you've been largely in person for the vast majority of this year, perhaps you need little additional time or none. There are two other layers at the local school district level. For individual groups of kids, fledgling readers, beginning English language learners, and children with severe or profound special needs. Each of these groups requires consideration at the local school district level about what is necessary for that individual group or groups. And then finally, the individual child. So Michael Rice, let's say, 6th grade at the beginning of this school year, 2 grade levels behind in reading, already struggling to keep up with his class. This year, perhaps has not gained much, if anything, in reading. Going into 7th grade, perhaps 2.5 or 3 grade levels behind. What are the necessary interventions for that child? Are we talking about summer school perhaps for that discrete child, not for the entire district and not necessarily for an individual group of children, but for that discrete instance? Do we need mentoring? Do we need tutoring? Do we need summer school? What other interventions might be helpful to get Michael back up to
challenges, plenty of them. We appreciate the insight there and the information, Dr. Rice. We thank you again for joining us on 7 UpFront. We'll talk again soon.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Dr. Michael Rice, the state schools superintendent, joining us here at 7.